Welcome back, and it's part 3 of watching me draw Wolverine again. So to get you caught up, so far there's been 2 previous parts. The first part was me pencil drawing Wolverine, and the last part, part 2, was me beginning the inking process. As I've stated in the earlier videos, I kind of felt like I really wanted to redraw Wolverine because I wasn't completely satisfied with my first one. So I'm trying to go for a more definitive image of what I feel my Wolverine drawing should look like. And I don't want to feel rushed or hurried. So I'm taking my time because I want this to be more reflective of my art style, what it normally looks like. I don't want this to be like a YouTube kind of like quick speed drawing or anything. So if this takes me anywhere between 3 or 5 parts, it's going to take me 3 or 5 parts. So let's get started. We're back at it. So when we left off, I just finished inking the claws and the glove, and I started working on the body a little. And I think today I'm probably going to kind of want to start off and finish off his lower body here and get that done with and out of the way. So let's tackle that right now. All right, so Wolverine's costume design. This was very common from his age of superheroes. You know, the 60s and 70s and 80s. Superheroes always had the tendency of wearing something that looked like their underwear on top of their pants, and that's what this kind of is. It's almost like briefs, and he's wearing these over his leggings. And these are a darker color. So the materials of his briefs here is going to be the same kind of material that his glove is made of. So I'm probably apply a similar rendering style, keeping in mind that I'm using the upper corners here as my light sources. And let's work on that right now. And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't nervous. I'm kind of nervous just because I didn't really plan out the folds or wrinkles. And I'm just going to kind of just make it up as I go along. Which isn't the smartest thing, because if I make a mistake, it's kind of like, there's no turning back. So the way I'm approaching this here is I like to block out the shapes where I know they're going to be filled in with black. And back in the day, I think the term for that was called spotting your blacks. And you just try to figure out where your darker areas are going to be and block them out and mark an X in them, as opposed to just going in there and just like taking a pencil and just, you know, sketching in the darker areas. This is more like I think about just mapping it out and taking mental notes. Okay, so I have those marked off. Let's come in here and just fill these out. And like I mentioned in the last video, I'm using a new Sharpie marker. So these have nice pointy tips on them. I'm really enjoying this process of just taking my time on this drawing. So far, you know, visually, it kind of really fits the aesthetic for, you know, how I see my artwork, and it's coming out clean. I want it to look very professional. I don't want this to come across as being hurried or, you know, amateurish. And hopefully, you know, I mean, that's with my eyes. I mean, hopefully that if someone else or if you're looking at this, you could kind of, agree or say the same thing. And I'm at the same time, I'm just really enjoying this process. I like to have a lot of crisp line work and really well defined areas of contrast. Makes things, I mean, at least in my eyes, it makes things look a little bit more dramatic, and it's much more visually engaging to me. Okay, I kind of made a small, tiny error. I kind of drew one line right here, and it bothers me. It shouldn't have crossed as far as it did, but oh well. So the other parts of Wolverine's costume, like his knee and then his belt, those are lighter tones. Like the belt's actually supposed to be red, and then this is supposed to be orange. His leggings, and I still got to figure out how I'm gonna approach that in terms of rendering it out, because I don't want to create a similar texture and value as the gloves and the briefs, since these are darker, a little bit more on the leathery side. So here on his costume, where I'm rendering out around his abdominal abdomen, it's also covered with this kind of like dark material. So I'm gonna render this out so it kind of fits here, but I just have to be careful because I'm getting kind of worried that this is all of a sudden gonna blend in with the arm, and you kind of lose, you know, where one ends and where one begins. But I'm kind of hoping that with this thicker line weight around the fist and the glove, it kind of separates from this region of the body. So as I'm looking at this drawing, I'm anticipating that I'm not going to be able to finish it within this one sitting. I kind of just want to focus on this area and then maybe this other hand. So then I'll try to finish that in this video. And then in the next video, possibly do his head and shoulders. And if not the shoulders, at least get the head in. So, I mean, I didn't realize it, but I mean, right off the bat, this drawing is going to take me, you know, I think already this is about 2 hours. And then after this, who knows where it's going to be at. But as I mentioned before, I don't want this to be a hurried process. I really want to take my time and just create something that I think this looks nice and is more indicative of how I normally draw. I apologize if I'm not saying much right now. It's just kind of thinking about what I'm supposed to do for this drawing. You know, since I'm kind of making this up as I go along, I'm kind of very iffy about things still. And I really don't want to make any mistakes. Alright. Okay, so this is looking okay. There's some artists, comic book artists, who they produce such clean artwork, like Adam Hughes and Terry and Rachel Dodson. I love their work a lot. They have such a really vibrant line. There's a very graceful simplicity about their drawings, but it's also there's a lot of energy in their characters, a lot of expression, a lot of motion. Their gestures are always spot on and really good. Okay, let's work on his hand here. Let's work on his fist. I remember when I took anatomy drawing in college. we were in our life drawing class drawing the models, and these are nude models. And I remember my instructor, he was always trying to emphasize that the lines we used, we shouldn't use really soft, curvy lines in the model when we're drawing the models, because he kind of pointed out that like a lot of lines are actually very straight. I mean, I guess if it was for more of effect, but you wanted to draw more straight lines when possible. And then when the lines kind of bent or met or curved is when you'd kind of add a little bit of a, curve to it. But he always kind of emphasized, draw the lines as straight as you could, but then when they meet, then you could kind of bend and curve them. And it almost creates like I think more like a chiseled kind of figure, if that makes any sense. It makes the characters look a little bit more hard edged and with a, not necessarily the chisel in terms of their musculature, but everything's just harder edged, more defined, and it makes, I think, for a better composition and a little bit more interesting. So I've always tried to apply that when I could, or at least when I remember to. And I think the most important takeaway I got from doing my life drawing class is the instructor was always kind of telling us, you draw what you see, don't draw what you know. And I think that's the key to trying to make something look realistic, is that if you're basing something out of reality, draw what you see, not what you know. Because when you draw from what you know, I think you're kind of filling in the blanks, and then it loses what makes it realistic. I think then if you're drawing from what you know, it's easier to manipulate the proportions and then kind of construe and change things to how you think they are, but it doesn't really represent reality accurately. But in this case, I'm not drawing off a life drawing. There's no life model I'm using. This is out of my head. But there's something to keep in mind if you're doing a still life composition, or if you're drawing from life. Draw what you see, not what you know. Right, so the line weight around this hand is almost the same as this. I kind of wasn't going for that, but I could kind of live with it. It's not bigger. The line weight isn't heavier than this fist, and in some places it looks like it's a little bit smaller, so it's all right. Because I don't want these to exist on the same plane, because I want this hand to be a little bit bigger. I could go back and retrace it, but then I don't want to. I don't know yet. I'll think it over. I mean, once this is done, if it doesn't look right, I'll go back and give this a little bit heavier line weight. But then I'd have to give this a heavier line weight. I don't know. But too much talking. Let's keep on drawing. Alright, so this is going to be his thumb. And let's plan out where his other fingers are going to be. Alright, I'm kind of at a tight spot right here because I'm not sure how to render out this hand correctly, because there's a light coming up here, so the top of the fingers are going to be lit. But then I don't want to mess up and then make the bottom of the hand look like this, like a giant glob of nothing, which is very easily to do if I don't do this right. Alright, I'm not sure if I did that right. Okay. Let's get some of the knuckles rendered in a little. There's a lot of guesswork when I draw, and I kind of enjoy that process. Just being able to think. That's why I don't like drawing everything in full pencils. I like doing a lot of things during the inking stage because it keeps me engaged in the drawing when I don't know what's going on completely. I think if I drew out the drawing completely in pencil and just traced over it in pen or marker, I'd just go to autopilot because all the heavy work and thinking's already done for me and I'm just tracing over it. But if I leave the drawing open-ended when I enter this phase of the drawing, I'm more invested in what I'm doing, and I think the chances of me making a mistake's a lot higher, but at the same time I think the chances of me like making improvements and making the drawing works better in my favor. It's always interesting to see how other artists compose their drawings and how they flesh things out and try to get a glimpse into their thought process. I think that's one reason why I enjoy these videos also, because I like to view them back every now and then just to see what I could have done differently, and maybe at the time try to figure out why I did what I did. Because sometimes for me, a lot of things seem right in the moment, but then when you're past that moment, you can look back and say, "Oh, I should have done this differently." And I know I've done that with every drawing, like ever. I've never done a drawing, where by the time I was done with it, I was like 100% happy with it. I always look back at my drawing in my work and go, "Oh, I should have done this," or I should have, I should have went right when I went left, that kind of deal. Now I'm a big X-Men fan, the comic books and like cartoons when I was growing up. And I was so kind of disappointed that, Wolverine, like every time he's been portrayed on the big screen in the movies, they never gave him the proper costume. And I think when the first movie came out, what was it, 1999 or 2000, they even joke around about it, saying, like him wearing, yellow spandex or whatever would be stupid. And I think that was the kind of general consensus at the time. Things during the late 90s, early 2000s was approaching where everything had to be a little bit more gritty, a little bit more realistic. And then the idea of superheroes being dressed up in tight, colorful spandex just seemed kind of asinine and silly. It's all about timing. Everything just has to come out at the right time. Okay, so I'm liking the thumb. Thumb looks okay. One thing I'm noticing also is that since I drew these on different days, the ink line I'm producing today is a lot different than the ink line I produced yesterday. I think yesterday my ink lines were a little bit thicker and I gave them a little bit more breathing room, where today everything feels a little bit more tighter and constricted. So I got to kind of be aware of that and make sure that I'm a little bit more consistent about my line weight and my line work. I'm also counting the fingers. I'm always worried that I'm going to draw a hand with either one finger too many or one finger too less. And I've seen it done in like real comic books too. There was one comic book, I want to say it might have been Wetworks by Will Portacio. And there might have been like I think I want to say a splash page. And it was one of the main characters, Delta Commander, also known as Dane. And then he had his arm raised. And then I was counting his fingers. I'm like, he had 6 fingers. It's like, it was such a beautifully rendered drawing, but the artist gave him one too many fingers. And I don't think anyone ever caught that. But I don't know, I'm kind of a stickler with detail every now and then, and I'm like, oh, dude, yeah, I gave him an extra finger. And ever since then, I've always been trying to be, self-aware of my own work and making sure that my characters, I'm not giving them extra toes or anything crazy like that. Okay, so what's working for me is that I was kind of worried that since I drew these hands on different days that I wouldn't be able to mimic the style I used initially when I drew this hand, but I think I did an okay job doing it here. I didn't want my art style to get too out there and different and, redraw the shadows differently on this hand. These two hands kind of look like they match, if that makes sense, in terms of their art style. Okay, that looks good. Let's come in here and draw the rest of his glove. Now this glove is going to be, I think it's going to be a lot more in shadow because, especially the inside here, the inside of his forearm, because of the light coming here and light coming here and his body out here, you're not really going to see as much going on here. So I think I could get away with drawing the bare minimum and just leaving the rest up to shadow. I mean, it only makes sense too, so it's not like I'm being lazy. I'm also being lazy. There we go. So as I'm drawing this, it's April 9th, 2021, and we're still in that global pandemic because of the coronavirus. So hopefully, if you're watching this in the far off future, that the world got better. It's been a very interesting time. I think one of the good things that came out of this, at least for me, is that having so much time, to myself, and since I don't get to see like friends and family or anything like that, is that I got to spend so much time just creating art and being creative, and I haven't been this creative in like God forever. But it's at the cost of my social life and my relationships and stuff. But I kind of told myself, in order for me to be in the best frame of mind to survive this kind of ordeal that we're going through right now, is that I got to be at my best mentally and emotionally. And for me, being creative kind of puts me in that spot. It's just unfortunate that it had to come to this for me to rediscover my love for drawing, because I was kind of disconnected from being creative for a while. I mean, it might come in spurts every now and then, but for a good chunk of the last maybe like 12 or 13 years, being creative, it was kind of not necessarily a struggle, because I'm always finding ways of being creative, but I wasn't doing it on a regular basis like I should have been doing. And I sometimes feel like, you always hear people like, if you want to be better at something, just keep on practicing. But I was never one of those kind of people. I always felt like you're just going through the motions if you just keep on doing that. And I always felt like I had to be from a place of motivation and being sincere about creating something, not just doing it out of habit or routine. So I'd always just put off drawing. For me, it was more about the time has to be right. The stars had to line and this and that. But I don't know if I was just trying to like run away from the fact that I couldn't make things work creatively in my life on a professional level, and I was just trying to maybe escape revisiting those old wounds. But looking back, it's kind of like I should have just kept at it, regardless of whether or not I was able to pursue my dreams, and if they failed or whatever. But for me, I mean, there just came a time where it's like I'm just tired of like, I'm tired of just not making it. If that makes any sense, I'm always falling short, and it's like I'm tired of falling short all the time. It's like I always feel like something's within my grasp, and then it just doesn't work out, and it's out of my control. And it's like no matter how hard I work for something, like it's just not happening. But it's like I said, I got to. At a certain point, I just gotta let go of that and just, whether it comes or it doesn't, just keep on soldiering on, I guess. I'm very envious of people that, chased their dreams and made it happen. And I hate it when people say, oh, you didn't work hard enough for it, or, but, they don't know. Unless you're in someone else's shoes, you'll never know what people went through. Okay, so how do I want to... I'm trying to figure out how to do this. I remember once I was having a conversation with a friend's wife, and at the time I was like trying to I was drawing and writing my own comic book, and then I was trying to find a publisher for it. And then she was kind of like, her attitude kind of put me off, because she was like, okay, so what if it doesn't happen? And I'm like, I can't think like that. If you think it's not going to happen, you're not going, you'll find ways to not make it happen. And for me, it's not that you have to put yourself in a delusional state where you think it's going to happen, but you got to be positive about it. And I'm like, this is a person who's never I don't think it's ever had any sort of like creative goals or dreams of any kind outside of just, maybe getting married and having a family. There's some people like me who are wired differently, and I think it's sometimes hard for non-creative people. I hate using that term, but for people that aren't creative, it's hard for them to relate what it's like to be creative and to like set really weird, unusual goals for yourself and try to see them through. And because like the stuff we do is it's not necessarily conventional. And I had the hardest time, even with my creative friends, trying to get them to understand that. But they just don't. Unless your success is defined by your social status or money. I think some people just don't really understand what it means to be governed by your creative impulse. And I feel so bad that I think a good portion of my life the last few years is just me losing that, and I hate myself for it. But it's like I felt so defeated for so long. Even today, I mean, I still run to like certain obstacles, and it's like I'm trying. I'm really trying. Just throw me a bone or something. But I do get enjoyment out of this in the end. I'm not saying that the key to like for my eternal happiness or any sort of happiness is becoming rich and famous off my art. But it's nice to be recognized, for what things you do and be appreciated on some level. I mean, because Lord knows I go out of my way to make people feel appreciated about the things they do, and if I don't fully understand it, just because I'd like to give to them what I would like to see in my own life. I'm very envious of artists and creators who are good at marketing themselves. I'm horrible at it. I don't know. I don't want to say I feel dirty or weird about it, but I feel weird and dirty about it. I don't know. But there's some people who are really great. Like I think, which artist is that? I think it's Romero Brito. He's good at taking his artwork, and it does a lot of, I think, patterns and stuff with bold colors and but he's really good at this branding himself into his artwork, and he's successful because of it. And I could never do anything like that because I just don't have that kind of impulse to do it. Like for me, it's like just doing the drawings enough, just doing the paintings enough. But then yet there's that whole other art and mastery of if you want to become successful financially with art, you got to know how to market yourself. You got to know how to brand yourself. And in this day and age, it's a lot simpler than it was before because of the advent of social media. But even then, it's kind of like it's weird. Everything's weird to me. It's like when you look at my YouTube videos. There's YouTube videos where on the thumbnails, I actually started putting myself into the thumbnail. And I always told myself, I never want to do that. I never want to do that. But I was reading somewhere, and they kind of mentioned that, that's the stuff people will click on. If they see some sort of fun thumbnail or someone making a goofy face, the chances are they're more likely to click on a YouTube video with an interesting looking thumbnail than, a thumbnail without the person on it. And I'm like, that seems weird, but, it's kind of true. So if you ever look at my YouTube videos and I'm making a funny face, and in my thumbnail, it's kind of like, not that I want to do it. It's just more so. It's kind of like that's just how it works in this world. And for me, I just feel kind of dirty. I don't know. Everything's weird. I'm just kind of babbling here, but okay. I'm liking where this is going so far. So I'm really curious how much I could finish today. I don't want to jump the gun though. As I mentioned earlier, I'm really liking the pace I'm going at, and everything's just working just right. I don't want to jeopardize anything. Okay, 1 claw, 2 claws, 3 claws. Alright, so right now I'm looking at... I'm thinking about doing this shoulder here. But I gotta complete this area right here. And I didn't really fully flesh this out, so I don't know how this is gonna look. Let's try to make it up. Okay, there's gonna be that. I don't think his face gets drawn that far in, does it? No, it gets cut off right about there. Okay, I think I'm safe. I was kind of worried that I messed things up again, which I'm prone to doing. Let's darken this in. My only regret with doing this drawing is that I'm enjoying this process right now, but I don't think this is making for necessarily like a fun video to watch, because I'm kind of sitting here being quiet, and when I am talking, I'm getting all serious about stuff. You know, whereas some of my other drawings, they're a lot more lighthearted and fun. But I mean, this is just the mood I've been caught in right now as I'm working on this. You know, I can't really escape that. So you're stuck with me and my serious ramblings. Okay. I don't know if this is looking right. It's kind of bothering me a little. Yeah, I don't know. Something about this area doesn't. It's not balanced right. I think once I draw the other shoulder here, it'll work out, because I think mentally in my head, because here's his head, here's the pit of his neck, shoulder's gonna right up here, his chest. Let's flatten this out a little. Okay, yeah. Alright, it's okay. This part's alright. It's not perfect, though. All right, at the very least, let's finish this shoulder here. I think I'll be happy with myself if I could at least do that. All right, I'm kind of having doubts about this part of the arm I'm working on right now. I tried to keep the light source in mind, but I can't get the muscle to curve right, and we'll see if I can fix it during this part of the drawing as I'm inking it now. I should have planned out the shadows just a little bit better, but clean this up a little so I can see my lines. I can't see my lines right. Okay, it's okay so far. Still having my doubts about it though. I really wanted to get the lighting right here, because this is such a larger muscle mass, and it's not, there's nothing really obstructing it, and I don't want to just mess it up. So here's hoping that I get it right. Those are some weird lines I just drew. Oh, man. Oh man, I'm not sure if this is working. It's not working. I'll, guess I'll have to just live with it. Kind of. Oh, I gotta trust my gut. All right, this is a weird kind of thing I'm doing here. I've never done anything like that before. It's almost kind of like a weird starburst effect. But my gut was telling me go for that starburst effect. I've never drawn this before. I don't know if it works. Does it work? It's really, really weird. It's a weird effect. I've never done that. Well, but it's nice to experiment, I guess. Could I add some value to this? It's weird. It's weird. I don't. This is I don't know yet. This. I'm not sure if I rendered this part right. It's bothering me, but. Okay. Oh, that's weird. Why'd I do that? All right, all right, let's just commit to it and see if it'll flow. All is not lost. Oh no, it's messed up. Give up now. I'm gonna start outlining the head before I go any further, because if I don't outline parts of this head, especially where it crosses into the body, I'm gonna be making mistakes. So I'm gonna outline the head with some contour lines, and that way I can define where I'm not supposed to be drawing, and I'm not supposed to be drawing there. Let's get these chest muscles in. Okay, so these are the neck muscles, and I'm just trying to define where the shadows are falling for some of these muscles on his neck. And then here's, I believe this is called the clavicle area of the chest. I really don't know my anatomy all that well, so you're just going to have to forgive me if I'm getting stuff wrong. Alright, let's start. Man, this is weird. Everything's weird today. Everything's weird. This is weird. I'm scared. I'm weird. Right, I'm at the point where I'm doing more of this drawing than I initially wanted to do today. But I kind of want to walk away from this, leaving it at the state it's in. I really want to walk away from it knowing that it's coming together. Okay, there's that. I don't know, I'm almost tempted just to do the head now too while I'm at it. Let's save the rest of it for the next video. To me, Sharpies would be like the most perfect drawing tool. Like, I don't mind that they bleed a little on the paper stock I'm using, but they'd be completely perfect if the tips on the fine point ones didn't dull down. If they didn't dull down, for me, oh, that'd be the perfect drawing tool. I'd be so happy. Okay, let's start. Oh, now I'm getting nervous. Let's work on the easy stuff first. Okay, I think I'm liking this so far. It's not perfect, but it's not bad. So. And I'm going to capture this effect. Alright, this starburst kind of deal here does a good job of feeling out or contouring to that muscle shape. And I gotta do that here. But I just gotta be careful of how I draw these lines or it's not gonna look right. And let's just take the gamble. I'm gonna gamble. I'm a gambling man today. Okay, it kind of works. I can live with that. It definitely looks lighter here than it does here. So this part of his shoulder is kind of exposed more to the light. Clean this up a little, just so. All right, how's this working for you? You like this? Of course you do. Who doesn't like it? All right, I think for now, this is where I'm gonna wrap this drawing up. This is part 3. We'll save part 4 with all the good juicy bits like the head, and then the arms and the legs. So right now, I think I think of all the videos we've done for this one, so for the Wolverine drawing, this was the most difficult. Rendering out this part of the body was hard. The fist was easy. His briefs here wasn't bad. The abs wasn't bad. But trying to create form and give this shadow and value, this was hard. And I don't know if the ink here is... No, it's not. Oh, I thought I was smudging for a second. And one thing, I mentioned this earlier before, but my ink lines here the lines were a little bit more open, just a little bit more breathing room. Whereas here, man, I'm getting really tight in my shading, so it's not consistent. But I can live with that because I think his overall composition is kind of working. There's some questionable pieces, like I think I could have shaped the muscle area groups here better, and right here. This kind of bothers me a little, but I think it's working overall. So I'm content. We'll see where the rest of this takes us, but for now. So yeah, this was part 3 of drawing Wolverine again. Thanks for sticking around. It's like I said before, this this series of drawing, it's not as fun as drawing like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm definitely a lot more deeper in my thoughts with this drawing. It's a more serious piece. It's not I have no intention or intent of making this a fast drawing. I want this to be slow and methodical and very thought out, so that by the time all said and done, the final illustration it's not going to be perfect, but it's something I could be really proud of, and I think I'm going that route right now. The hard parts, I think, are kind of out of the way. I mean, we still have the face to ink, and that could prove to be a little bit challenging. But for now, this is it. It's where I'm at. Thanks for joining me on this very slow creative process, and I appreciate you checking this out. And I'll see you later. Take care.